Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time here, you're welcome. My name is Gift Egwenu, and in today's video I'm going to be sharing 5 money habits I've learned in my 20s. When you start to develop good money habits early on, it actually helps you in the long run to build financial freedom. Managing your finances can be very daunting, especially if you struggle with prioritizing where you should be putting your money and what you should be spending your money on. So I'm going to be sharing 5 tips that personally have utilized over the last couple of years to help me manage my finances better. The first habit that I've learned is to always try to budget and track my expenses. So I started off by tracking most of what I spend. Doing that manually can actually be very frustrating. So instead of doing that, what I've found very helpful is using like an application that would allow me to do this automatically. So I found various different apps on the App Store that can help me track my expenses. So for every expense that comes out of my bank account for the month, it's being tracked, and then I can set a limit or a budget for that month on, for example, groceries, entertainment, and at the end of the month I review it to see that I am hitting my goals. And if, for example, I go past a certain category, I always make sure that I am, reducing what I'm spending, or just if I find that it's something that is needed and necessary, I can increase the budget that I have assigned for that specific category. So right now I'm using an application called Bonk. This is essentially my bank account, and it allows me create budget. It can also allow me, set a limit for how much I want to spend in a specific category, whether that is entertainment, electricity, and so many other different categories you would possibly want to set a budget for. I've also seen people use spreadsheets and Notion, for example, for tracking their budgets. Right now, I would say find what works for you and stick to it. I find that if possible, getting it automated to reduce the strain on you would be very helpful, because then you can just, at the end of the month, check out if your budget matches what you spent at the end of the month, and that way you don't have to do too much work. But if you're manually tracking it, then you can easily just stop doing it over time. The second money habit that I've learned is to make sure that I'm investing in myself and in my career. Investing in yourself can help you acquire knowledge and skills that are necessary to help you grow in your career. Personally, for me, I have always been doing this right from like the onset. I would go on to buy courses for myself. I would pay to go to events if possible. I would go to conferences. I continually search for ways that I can improve myself, whether that is buying a course or buying a book or subscribing to someone's newsletter that I want to learn from. I'm always consciously, setting aside money if possible to allocate, to expenses that comes from upskilling myself. Another important money habit is to avoid debt at all costs. Like, don't owe anybody money. If there's one thing that I'm personally proud of, right, and I can beat my chest and say, is I try not to borrow money from anybody. And even if like the circumstances allows for me to borrow money, I always avoid having debt. Like, I'm going to make sure that I pay back. I've had scenarios where I was in need of money and I would rather just suffer. Like, this was me growing up. I would rather suffer than ask for money, because I'm always scared of, the implication of owing somebody or having debt, right? And I've taken that, up until this point where I find that I'm always avoiding debt, whether I can control it or not. So in cases where I can control it, I try not to borrow. In cases where I can't control it, it's fine for me to borrow, but I make sure that I pay back. There's also something that I started doing recently, which is having a credit card. And this is interesting because it's not something I'm used to. It's a new thing for me. I'm potentially have used debit card since I started using my bank account, So I have an American Express card, and it allows me to purchase up to a certain limit per month. The good thing here is I've set it to automatically collect the money from my account at the end of the month. So it's not essentially like I am borrowing money and I'm not paying back. I make sure that I refund or return the money at the end of the month. And then the good thing about using an Amex card is that you can get points where you can now use it when you're booking flights or traveling. So that is the reason why I'm using it. Otherwise, I would just stick to using my debit card. The fourth habit is to save for emergencies. Like, make sure that you have an emergency fund allocated in your savings, right? So one thing that I always say is you don't know what will happen in like the future, so it's always good to be prepared. So it's very important to allocate savings for emergencies. Like, you don't know what will happen, like I said, so it's good to have money set aside every month if possible, or every quarter, depending on what works for you really. But it's good that you have this so that when gbege happen, you will not be running up and down helter skelter to borrow money, right? So one thing that I have like tried to stick to is make sure that I always have some money set aside, even if it's just to japa. Like, I remember when I was relocating, I had saved some money for essentially jackpotting, right? And that helped me when I moved here, because I had some money even before receiving my salary. I had some money that I could use to set up, get an apartment, and all that other things that I needed to do. So emergency funds are pretty important. You should make sure that you're doing that, or you currently have one. The last and final habit that I have been able to learn in my 20s is always looking for additional sources of income, right? And I would say that I've been very privileged to be able to learn about different, sources of income that I can use to sustain my 9 to 5 salary. Like, for example, YouTube is one of the additional sources of income that I currently have. Even though it's not a lot, I still get something from YouTube every month, which is kind of nice because it's something that I enjoy doing regardless. So if I get money from it, that's like a plus, right? So I've been able to find different sources of income over the last couple of years. I've even made a video about it where I shared like 6 or 5 different side income ideas that you can start as a developer. If you like to watch that video, I have it linked somewhere here. So for me personally, I have like several different sources of income that if you want me to talk about in a separate video, I can talk about it openly, that's fine. But right now I have between 4 to 5 different sources of income, and that has been very helpful in helping me, build my financial independence as I go on to this journey. Of course, I'm very open to learn more different ways, whether that is investing in stocks, or there are different things you can actually do. Creating content is one that I'm already exploring right now. I have been creating content for a long time now, and I've been making some side income from that. I have tried to dabble into investing and stocks and crypto and all of that, even though I'm not actively doing that anymore, but it's something that I've explored. So yeah, there are different ways you can add additional income to what you currently make. If you want me to do a more detailed video about that, please leave a comment in the description and I'll do more research to talk about the different passive income that I've tried and that I currently have. That is all that I have to share. I hope you enjoyed the video and you learned something new. So those are the 5 habits that I currently have and I'm keeping in my 20s. Of course, I'm going to be learning more as I navigate this journey. It essentially has helped me over the last couple of years to build financial freedom. I'm really for the FIRE movement. FIRE movement, if you're not familiar with it, means financially independent, retire early. So essentially, it's a motion that says that you as a young person, you shouldn't be working up to 60 before you retire. You should already have like a lot of different sources of income that can sustain you and can even allow you retire early. So that's like the movement that I'm currently on. If you have more ideas around this subjects, please leave a comment in the comment section. I'm happy to hear what other people are also doing in this area. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you liked it, if you enjoyed watching it, if you learned anything from what I've shared, please like and share with your friends. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye.